You probably heard us talk a lot about collaborative versus competitive. Okay, being in a collaborative state, being in a competitive state. Who ever had the experience where you go out, walk into a venue, and immediately assume everyone hates you? Raise your hand. Okay, that's the default, right? Who here even experienced that walking into this room here? You don't know many people, you're like looking around, where do I stand? Me versus, raise your hand. All right. Now that there, if you zoom out, that's the competitive state, a competitive frame, and everything is filtered through that. And the number one, which I can change my mind and say number one again, but one of the number one sticking points people have is they have this frame, and you can think of it as glasses you put on, right? You see the world, now it's me versus. And you have these glasses, and then you try to apply techniques to battle that, right? So here's a common one. Say I were to walk up here on stage, and it's me versus, right? Me versus all of you. Instead of, say, clapping, say everyone was like, boo! And I'm like, okay, here I am. How would I battle that? Number one.
You guys want to see what that would feel like?
Give me a boo. Come on.
Bring back Father Jay.
James!
Now.
What happened to you?
Now.
Why'd you do this? I did this. You did this.
Now, let's just say, you know, that actually affected me, which it totally didn't. But let's just say it did. Say I were to walk in a venue like this. This is how I would experience it. I have those glasses, and I now view you all as monsters, right? And the way our mind works is we really exaggerate it. Okay, I'd experienced this forever, again, with social skills. I'd walk in a venue, and I'm like, everyone's staring. I would also assume, this is what's crazy, that everyone knows each other. I'm like, everyone here is already one big group, and I'm the outsider who now needs to join this party. So I'd walk in, I'm like, okay, here's the big party. How do I impress these people? How do I get them to like me? How do I join their party? Right? And from there, there's different techniques, right? So let's examine how I feel at a core, right? I'm like, oh, I'm insecure. Let me put on this front. Let's not look like this affected us. Let's power through. And then I'd probably start building momentum, right? That's one technique. I'm like, oh, maybe if I talk to some people, let me build momentum. Another one is, well, you know, I heard that if you just go a little bit louder again and again, that's good. You know, so I'll go louder with every interaction. Oh, there's all these techniques to not run out of things to say. Oh, there's these techniques, you know, to take people off a pedestal, so on and so forth. And that's how people go about this. Now, that there is a lot better than nothing. Okay, old me way back in the day, that's how I'd experience reality, and I would just stay at home. And that's what most people do. They would never put themselves in a situation where they feel that social pressure, whether it's out socializing, in a venue like this, at a business networking event, you name it. So it's a lot better than nothing. But here's what I realized, okay? You do this enough, and yeah, there's times you get little glimpses, right? And that's the experience of the majority of people who try this, is they're in this competitive state, and they have glimpses where suddenly it's, me and, right? Oh, now people like me. Oh, it's collaborative. And it's the same environment, but it feels completely different, but it's only glimpses. And that never changes. Why? Because say you put those glasses on, competitive. Anything you do from that reinforces that frame. You can think of the lens getting thicker and thicker and thicker the more you act through it. And it entrenches you in that, to the point where now, no matter what the environment is, people get locked in this competitive frame. You'll see people like this, where they try to be confident.
The more successful you are, you reinforce the frame.
Yeah. But you might know people like this who walk in and they're like, you see they worked on themselves, but something's a little bit off. They come in, they're like, look at this body language. Hey there. They do the Trump handshake, right? You like that? You see me dominate? Yeah, you too? You want to see me dominate? Who's more alpha, right? That's what people do. And it's a little too try hard, or they'll like sit back and they'll like do the crazy body language, just like taking up space like that, or like taking up 3 chairs on purpose. And you're just like, it's a little too, it's like, yeah, you're trying to be cool, but it's like, it's too tired and too competitive, right? It immediately puts you in this competitive state. You'll also see people like this where they can't vibe, they can't joke. Everything's a big competition. If you say something like, oh, hey, this good thing happened to me, they're like, oh, that happened to you? Well, you want to hear something even better that happened to me? And they try to top it off, and it's just so cringy. You'll see people like that too. They get very hurt easily, like any little joke, or say you're messing around with someone, like teasing someone for fun, like with friends. They're like, oh, they get really offended. That's what happens. That's the pinnacle of the competitive state, the competitive frame. So the key here is to remove those glasses. And this here is really done through a lot of inner work and letting go, right? It's asking yourself, wait a minute, why is it that every single time I see a stranger, I assume they are against me and not on my side? That's weird. Where did that come from? A lot of patterns and conditioning. But then also, when you go out and start talking to people, it's come from that frame of mind. Okay, what if instead of walking here, I temporarily take those glasses off? And you can even imagine, right? Just like we did here. Instead of everyone like, oh, like booing, it's like, what if everyone is just cheering me on right now? They might not, right? Say you're in a venue, everyone's like just doing their thing. You could literally visualize like, yeah, they're all cheering me on. How would I feel? How would I act? And thank you. It's only you and me in the collaborative. I like it. No, but it's true. It's like, how would that feel? And the glasses might not be very strong, right? The frame might be very thin, and you'll fall back, and that's fine. But as you start acting and investing in that frame, everything changes. And once you're in that frame, guess what? You don't need to build momentum, because you're already there. You don't get rusty. You don't feel like there's this front you have to put on. You're not clinging to all this approval, right? Only someone who thinks they don't have approval is like seeking approval. You're no longer in this big competition. And this is how you actually become, quote unquote, high value, how you actually become cool.